If you haven't already seen it, Breaking Bad is a show about a high school chemistry teacher who is diagnosed with terminal cancer, and in a desperate bid to secure his family's financial future, he starts cooking and selling crystal meth. He convinces himself that he'll be able to manage the consequences of this decision enough so that the positive side effects will outweigh the negative. Unfortunately, this initial bad decision forces him to confront even more moral dilemmas than he expected, and things quickly spiral out of control as he makes one immoral decision after another to try to avoid the consequences of the first bad decision. The only remedy to his predicament is to interrupt the cycle of bad decisions by refusing to continue avoiding the unavoidable consequences of his first bad decision. That kind of responsibility and willingness to accept the consequences of our decisions and actions is what it means to be a free agent. If we aren't willing to be accountable for our decisions, then we don't deserve the right to make them. That's why most parents limit the freedom of their children until they've learned to be responsible enough for their choices. Like, you wouldn't give a 9-year-old a credit card and say,
"You want something, go get it."
Because they aren't ready for the responsibility that is required for that kind of freedom. It's like democracy. When movements for democracy were gaining momentum in Western countries, a common argument against them was that the mass populace was too uneducated and uninformed to make responsible decisions about who should govern them. Based on recent events, some of you might be inclined to agree with that line of argumentation. There is a point to be made there. For democracy to work, that is, the right to choose who should represent your interests in government, the people making those decisions have to take responsibility for them by making sure that they are educating themselves about the candidates and the issues. If people aren't willing to assume that responsibility, then they don't deserve that freedom. Being pro-choice or pro-freedom means a willingness to make responsible decisions and to face whatever consequences might come from bad decisions. That is the cost of freedom. Having freedom to make choices necessitates the possibility of making bad choices. But if we insist on avoiding the consequences of those bad choices, then we're not really asking for freedom. Freedom introduces risk, and if you're not willing to face that risk, then you're not willing to be free. Instead, what the pro-choice moniker has come to mean is that we want easy access to abortion. But here's the thing. Abortion exists to avoid the undesired consequences of our decisions, specifically pregnancy and parenthood. It promises the alleviation of the responsibility that we should be willing to embrace if we expect to be given the freedom to govern ourselves. Now, you'd be right to point out that not all pregnancies are the result of free choices. Some people are victims of sexual assault and can't be held culpable if pregnancy occurs. But considering the most credible estimate for the percentage of abortions due to rape is about 0.5%, we really can't justify using this extremely rare occasion to continue reinforcing this self-contradictory view of choice and freedom. As someone who strongly believes in personal freedom and liberty, I take exception to the pro-choice movement's use of language to assert that easy access to abortion is about exercising liberty, when freedom of choice brings with it responsibility for those choices, not the evasion of them. So if we want to promote choice as something that is tied to liberty and freedom, we should also be promoting responsibility for the choices we've already made and demonstrate a willingness to face the consequences of our choices, whether we like them or not. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to try and make one of these videos a few times a month, and hopefully we can get it up to about once a week. And they're going to be about topics that are interesting to me and hopefully interesting to you too. And so if they are, please subscribe and come find me on Twitter and elsewhere, and stay tuned.